Empower Black men to live extraordinary lives. Shatter the stereotypes. Power Black men. Power Black men. Shatter the stereotypes. Power Black men to live extraordinary lives. Shatter the stereotypes. Shatter the stereotypes. Power Black men to live extraordinary lives.
Welcome to Shatter the Stereotypes, where the intention is to empower Black men to live extraordinary lives. This show is based on the simple idea that every Black man is capable of creating inner peace, dynamic health, great relationships, and financial abundance. Therefore, we provide insights and strategies to educate, motivate, and inspire Black men to reach their full potential and create the life of their dreams. So if you're ready for some high-octane motivation and inspiration that supports and empowers you to live the life you were born to live, get ready to shatter the stereotypes so you can build a life that lights you up and positively impacts the world. So now, let's shatter the stereotypes with your host, Coach Michael Taylor.
Hello and welcome to Shatter the Stereotypes, where my intention is to empower Black men to live extraordinary lives. You see, there's never been a shortage of Black male role models. There's only been a lack of exposure of those role models in mainstream media. So my intention is to showcase and highlight Black men who are doing remarkable things in the world. Because if you pay attention to mainstream media, you may conclude that all Black men live in the hood and are trapped in poverty and uneducated and want to be gangsters and rappers. Nothing could be further from the truth. The truth is, Black men are thriving and experiencing unprecedented levels of success in all segments of society. And my guest tonight is going to confirm this fact, and he's going to provide some insights to support Black men in building extraordinary lives. His name is Jewel Love, and he's the founder of a movement and company called Black Executive Men. He's also a therapist and life coach who works with some of the most highly educated and wealthy Black men in the country and beyond. And he is definitely a man who is shattering stereotypes. So it is my absolute honor and privilege to have him on the show. Hello, Jewel. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. And I just got to start off by saying, because I've been on your show before and loved it then, I didn't even fully understand how powerful it is what you're doing until now. And my guess is I'll understand it even more in the next 5 years or 10 years. But the platform, what you are creating, shattering stereotypes, I hope your audience understands how powerful and on point. I'm telling you guys, this brother is 100% on point with what he's talking about here. I needed to rehear that intro to understand fully where I'm at. This is incredible.
Yeah. And again, you're one of the reasons I do this show. When I see brothers like yourself that are out there shattering stereotypes, I want to give them a platform so that other brothers can see what we're doing, because we know what the mainstream media is going to show, right? So it is our responsibility. I love what Tyler Perry said when he said, stop fighting for room at the table, build your own table. And that's what Shatter the Stereotypes is. It's my own table that I've created to empower Black men. So again, I'm just absolutely connected and honored to have you on the show. So let's start off with a few sentence completions. First of all, Black men are
winning on all levels.
Love it. Life is
fantastic. And what you make it.
My superpower is
it's actually psychotherapy, but it's also networking. I'm a beast.
I love to
eat spaghetti.
One thing I'd like to change about the world is
I love this. One thing I'd like to change about the world is, I mean, it's my work, so Black men not knowing how in demand we are in corporate.
Ooh, I'd like to hear that. And last but not least, the future is
bright.
So Now I want to give an opportunity to introduce Jewel Love to the audience. Tell them what you do professionally, who you are. Here's your spotlight moment. So introduce yourself.
Yeah, so originally from the San Francisco Bay Area, went to school at UC Santa Barbara and majored in Black Studies. Graduated, got my master's in clinical psychology from Antioch University. Phenomenal experience. And then I started Black Executive Men, which originally was a psychotherapy company for Black men in corporate America. People were saying, when I work with Black men and they don't want therapy and can't afford therapy, won't come to I knew a completely different narrative, and to help shatter stereotypes in that front as well. I started Black Executive Men, started working with brothers Google and NVIDIA and Microsoft, Medtronic, Capital One, and Pepsi, and all the various organizations, and learning and growing my corporate IQ and social IQ in the corporate realm. And so even though they were paying me for healing services, I was taking notes for myself about certain vocabulary, themes, concepts, levels of seniority, corporate concepts, you name it. And I was having a master class. And I did that for 6 years. And then I transitioned to doing coaching for the past 2 years. And now me and my team, are launching an elite membership network for Black men to come in, be supported, reach their financial dreams, reach their seniority dreams as well. So constant growth.
Mm. Now, I want to pivot just a minute because this just kind of hit me. I want you to share because we're talking about Black men, and I'll just say Black men and success. Okay. I'm just going to label it success. And what I love about the work that you're doing is you actually are living what some people might call the laptop lifestyle, where you're impacting men around the globe. You're traveling around the world with a laptop. Give us a little feedback, a
Right
little
here.
insights about that laptop lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely. So 3 years ago, going on 3.5, I was living in the San Francisco Bay Area, and you all know the pandemic hit, or whenever you're listening to this, there was a huge pandemic and affected us across the world. Said everybody needs to stay inside, so stayed inside. But that also meant that my business, my one-on-one clients, therapy at the time, stopped coming to my office. So I gave up my office. I didn't need it. I wasn't in a relationship at the time, so I was free to roam, and decided to do so midway through the pandemic. I worked with a coach who helped me get over some fears around getting COVID and traveling to new countries. And I put everything in storage and bought a one-way ticket and went to South America with my laptop. And the internet worked there just like it did in the United States. So I took my calls. People didn't even know I was in a completely different side of the equator. But I was, and I was living my best life. I then traveled for, about 2 years around Latin America, South America, and landed in Mexico, which is where I'm living at now as an expat here in Mexico. Everything is done on my computer. I hadn't been to a business conference or gathering in about 3 years. I just recently went to one in New York, a private equity and venture capital alternative investments conference, and it was absolutely phenomenal. So now I will be traveling back to the United States for business conferences, but it's optional. Yeah, I'm living through my laptop and my phone.
And I love that because, again, I'm an optimist. That's the lens through which I see the world. And for brothers out there who are wanting to, my tagline is empowering Black men to live extraordinary lives. And we got to understand the
Good.
opportunities that are out there. And the fact that you can run your business and make impact around the globe with a laptop, I mean, that just blows me away. So, men, as you're watching this, just know what opportunities are out there if you're willing to put forth the effort. So we're going to be talking about, again, Black executive men and the work that you do. And I think what's unique about you is you're a therapist and a coach. So first of all, can you make a distinction between coaching and therapy?
Oh, easily. Yeah. Therapy is about healing the past, and coaching is about lifestyle creation and pretty much for the future. So, typically, if you're going into therapy, it's because you've had some kind of wounding or abuse or loss or, frankly, hurts from the past. And that's what therapists will help you heal. And typically, they're impacting you emotionally, relationally, psychologically, as far as your performance at work, friendships, you name it. Um, in the present. And so you would go to a therapist and they would help you to heal your relationship with what happened in the past. Can't change the past. Past is already over. But those memories of it and our relationship with those events, it lives on in our mind and in our psyche, consciously and many times subconsciously beneath the surface. So a therapist can help you to identify the hurts from the past, how they're impacting you today, and to heal, improve your relationship with those instances so they no longer have that grip negatively over your life today. And you can let it go, talk about it without an emotional charge, and just move on. Very powerful. Coaching is typically helping you to identify your lifestyle goals. That could be, seniority you want to reach, a certain amount of money, relationship, health, how you want to dress, you name it. There's all kind of coaches, uh, and then holding you both accountable for taking the action steps to achieve them, but also kind of similarly identifying any subconscious beliefs that are holding you back that you're most likely, honestly, unaware of to some degree, and helping you to pretty much alleviate yourself of those, kind of remove them, if you will, and then replace them with more empowering beliefs about yourself and your future, which it can put you into hyper growth and have dramatic results when it's the right coach for you.
Mm. Now, let's say someone says, okay, Jewel, I want to hire you as my coach.
Mhm,
But then you recognize that this guy might really need some therapy, not
mhm,
just coaching. How would how
mhm.
would how would you handle that? Or
Yeah,
how
I'd
would that
recommend
change?
he get a Yeah, I'd probably just recommend he get a coach in the city or state that he lives in, or maybe even country that he lives in. I no longer practice psychotherapy. I just do coaching at this
Okay.
point. So it's helpful because it makes just a clear distinction on the role that I play for my clients' lives. So let's say there was somebody that was in dramatic need of psychological healing. I would not take them on as a client because the primary activity they should probably be engaged in is healing in order to even have the foundation and stability emotionally, psychologically, mentally to do coaching work, which is kind of a higher level, and the probably like the it's not quite Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but just in terms of stability it takes to build upon build the life you want. Mental health is a pretty important one to have stability in first. So, long story short, I would refer them out if they were severely mentally ill. If they had some more lighter challenges, I could still work with them as their coach. And then we'd add someone to their team, which would be a therapist. And it could be a black male therapist or just whoever they find is the best fit for them.
Yeah. So would you say it's important to make sure we don't have that unresolved trauma, the really traumatic stuff that may be keeping us from being who we are? Do you say it's important to do that work first before you get a coach?
Not necessarily. You can still have, let's say that, because I work with, corporate guys, but it could be in any really field or profession or sector. Um, they've had this stuff happen, guys. They were sexually abused as a child. Yeah, this stuff is real. We can't turn away from the truth. The truth is the truth. It's going to do us good to just tell it and then deal with it from that point. I think we're going to be stronger. I think we are stronger as a community for doing so. Emotional abuse, physical abuse, you name it. Name calling, teasing, too dark, too light. Had the right kind of shoes, the wrong kind of shoes, the right type of hair, the wrong type of hair, the right type of vocab, speech, intonation, the wrong time. You know how it is, guys. There's always something going on in our community in which we have found ways to put each other down for. And, we're breaking free of that much more these days, which is fantastic. Shows and programs like these and organizations like mine. But these things that can happen to many of us as kids, they can have a damaging effect. And yet you got guys that are still graduating PhD from Michigan, MHBS, Harvard Business School masters, graduating Wharton and NYU Stern and FAMU and Morehouse and all these wonderful schools, but still have the stone on their heart, if you will. So I think there's guys that are still able to perform at a fairly high level and can benefit from coaching and still be holding this stuff in that they might not even be fully aware of or have some awareness of, but are able to compartmentalize it enough to still get the job done. So I think you can still definitely have coaching and move forward. And you have truly a huge opportunity to dip into the therapy waters and find a sense of healing, which can just give you lasting internal peace. So if you're sensing into that, it's go time. It's time to make it happen.
Yeah, man, I'm so glad we're having this conversation, because again, I know from my own experience, I was driven by, and this was my big aha moment after my divorce. Had been successful most of my life, and I was actually driven by a deep sense of shame. And that shame was the result of some pretty traumatic stuff. And so I had to be willing to heal that, and I think that's one of the reasons why I became a coach, because I wanted to help other men deal with the pain that I experienced myself and help them move through that. But yeah, it's important for us to have these types of conversations. And again, that's exactly why I love having men like yourself on this call. So the next question, or the next point is, you posted a comment on LinkedIn which said, the greatest mental health challenge facing Black men was loneliness. And I'll never forget when I read that. I immediately, I'd never heard the word before, but I immediately resonated with that word. So can you explain what you meant by that?
Yeah. So as Black men, especially in the corporate realm, and there's a lot of realms, frankly, many times we feel like we're the only one there. Many times we are the only one there. It comes from a realistic experience and assessment of what's going on, at least initially, for sure. And it's that sense of feeling like we're the only one, perhaps misunderstood, disconnected, not able to open up and share our authentic self, oftentimes for fear of some negative consequence coming about from it and leading to lack of promotions or maybe getting pushed out of the company or that immediate social circle. And you guys know corporate is about clubs. It's about being a part of the in-group club, being the rebel and outsider. That's only going to go for so kind of long. It's about being a part of the team and finding ways to add value and be a good leader for kind of as many people as possible, and having people see you as a value add part of the organization and moving up through the company in that way. So it can be a very damaging thing. It can be to one's career, but definitely to one's, it can impact negatively one's confidence and self-esteem, and their aspirations in questioning, do I belong here? And not just here, that next level, that VP, that SVP, that C level. Oh no, that's not for us. That's not for me. That's for them. And that can be a dangerous place in terms of how it impacts our behaviors, in terms of what we're doing to get ahead or keep ourselves where we are at. Yeah, loneliness it's a huge factor facing a lot of Black men in corporate America.
Yeah, because again, when I read that, I literally sat there for probably 20 minutes and I was just thinking, wow, all my life I've experienced that. And as a matter of fact, I was so inspired by that word, I wrote a book called The Cure for Loneliness, a Black man's guide to joy, passion, and purpose. Now, with that being said, What
Amazing.
what would you consider to be the cure for loneliness?
Whew, man, it's powerful, man. There's a couple of things that come to mind. I love where this conversation is at right now. So I'll start with the one that comes to my mind first. The tagline for Black executive men is stronger together. So, that basically tells you that by getting together with other Black men in an authentic space where we can talk openly about our experiences, whatever those experiences are, in an accepting and welcoming environment, that can be one of the cures to feeling seen, heard, understood, valued. Huge piece of the puzzle. So I think that's one of the pieces. Highly recommend it. The brotherhood, the community, the network, the mastermind, whatever, we got a bunch of names for it, the club, whatever we want to call it. But having that can be powerful. Men's groups, men's club, you name it. I think the second thing that comes to mind is, it doesn't have to, but working with a coach or a therapist to really get, it has to do with one's relationship with one's self and the way one sees the world. And some of the most powerful work I've done is for my clients, Black men, to have a shift in how they see the universe itself, which
Mm,
is that the universe or God is on their side as a Black man, wants them to win, and that their authentic experience is important for them to share with their colleagues, actually in terms of a form of leadership. Now, I will say this. Many times we do work on the communication pieces of that authenticity. So it comes across and it lands in a way that expresses what their experience is, and it builds that bridge and is a value add to those around them. And many times when we do that, they have very positive experiences with those around them who want them to win as well, but are honestly, sincerely not familiar with their experience, nor necessarily aware that they're experiencing it at all. Specifically, whatever it is that they're experiencing. So that's a second piece of the puzzle, which has turned a lot of guys' careers around. Guys have tripled their income. One guy I worked with in 12 weeks tripled his income. Another got a new job, different company. And another, he had just peace in having that perspective that the world is for him. See, this is the shattering stereotypes. This is that the world is for us. We have everything that we need to do to win in it, and we're being provided with these resources at all times. See, that opens up one's mind and then their eyes to being able to see this reality that's always there. And hence, like you're sharing, the onlyness connects them with joy, with that sense of possibility, that they're riding the wave of their own life. See, guys, this is a completely flip of the coin from being reactive to being in alignment with this creative or creator energy itself. It's a very different experience, but it's a mindset shift.
yeah, absolutely. Now, I'm 63, and I remember back in the 60s, 70s, when a Black man achieved a high level position within a company, he had to deal with being called a token. You remember that term, token? And so
Mm.
white people may have believed the only reason he was there because of affirmative action or something. And once he got there, even Black people may have accused him of trying to be white, right? So are Black men still dealing with that sort of conversation these days?
Yeah, so there's a couple of, it's varied, the conversations. I'll speak to one I'm more intimately connected with, and then we'll kind of move out in what is it, concentric circles, like out away from that. So the one that I'm more familiar with, and so the circle started starting in corporate, right, and then moving out to maybe the larger Black community. So with what I see on YouTube and just have heard throughout my life, frankly, and things I've said myself. Yeah, we're gonna get personal. So gatekeeper, did a whole podcast episode on gatekeepers. So today they're called gatekeepers many times. So you got brothers that make it to senior level, VP, even senior director, you name it, C-suite. And the critique is because this brother has so many people coming to him for guidance. You wouldn't believe it, what his LinkedIn inbox looks like, from junior level Black men, women, and others that see him as their person that's going to be their executive sponsor, their mentor, their teacher, their guide, psychologically, potentially their father figure. There's all kind of projections that are going on to this man. He has to show up to Black, not that he has to, I mean, most of the time he wants to, but it's clearly his responsibility to show up to Black ERG, employee resource group meetings, you name it. And number one, he literally does not have time to field everybody's request. That's the first thing. The second thing is he wants to give back. But some people are not going to like this, but I need you all to know the hidden rules of the corporate game so you can just win. You can just play by them and win. And there's something that needs to happen in an exchange between a mentee and a mentor. So if the mentality is I'm going to show up and just receive, door shut. It's not going to, I'm going to tell you, it's not going to work. It's not going to be sustainable. What most don't know, and I had to learn myself, is there's an exchange happening between what a mentee gives. It's a giving relationship, and what a mentor gives and what both receive. The first thing, and I'll be brief about this, is research. Who is that man? Where did he go to school? What are his hobbies? Have you listened to a podcast that he's on to understand how he thinks? What was his journey to get where he's at? What is his philosophy? Once you start reading his articles in Harvard Business Review or checking out his YouTube when he goes back and speaks at his alma mater, and you start understanding his worldview, see, you can get inside of his world. Yes, you're getting in his world. And if you do that work, he'll see that you are a student. And you value him, not just he's a Black man, not just he's a C-level leader. There's a real human being inside of that shell, inside of that body. So that's going to be key, and it will separate you out from, I don't know, 90, 80, 90% of the other people that are just coming and asking and hoping to receive. So that's one of the first things. I'd say the second thing is praise. It's important to know how to praise authentically. Mentors, truth be told, are actually looking to receive something from the relationship. It's not purely selfless. They're looking to know they're making an impact. And they typically know this by hearing the person or institution that they're giving to give some feedback of some sort. So feedback can look like, thank you so much for sharing. That shifted the way that I've looked at this. I haven't seen it in this way before. I actually was able to go on and have a powerful conversation, get a raise, get a promotion, look at the world in a different way. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I'd love to circle back in the future to give you an update on how this is going. Is that okay if we leave the door open? I'm telling you, you're going to get some yeses because the exchange is happening. So I just wanted to share both ends of the coin, and there's some more pieces on how to be an expert mentee, but there is the critique on Black men senior leadership, their gateways, gatekeepers, sure, sellout, token, maybe whitewash. I hear that a lot less these days in corporate. It's more about being a gatekeeper and not being supportive.
Got it.
Now, let's go on one of those concentric circles outside of corporate. So I often hear and I see on YouTube, it's talking about corporate America and the shifts that many of us have to make to work there, to thrive there, and be our authentic self there, and just some things that we have to learn. But frankly, a lot of people have to learn things. Corporate is a unique culture in and of itself. And just because you're white doesn't mean you get that culture or grew up with that culture, or Asian or whatever. We all, unless your parents were kind of that, have to learn a unique corporate culture. So many times in the larger Black community, and this was my understanding of it as well, is you're a sellout if you do it, if you're working for corporate, white collar jobs, right? If you're at the front of Verizon selling the phone, you're good. But if you're a manager, senior manager, and I can't see you, you're not working at that store, somehow you sold out the Black community. You're in cahoots with white supremacy, capitalism, which is some evil extractionary thing that's oppressing or even to an extreme degree enslaving the Black community in some way, shape, or form. And it's just wrong. And I still see that. I literally saw it today, probably about 30 minutes before this interview.
Wow.
About there was a Black man working in corporate talking about his experience, and then the comments were, "Hey, that's why we need to get our own outside of corporate. And if you work in corporate, you have to, kiss the white man's ass, and that's what you all are. You're sellouts because you do that. We're better. You're less." And I'm like, this is insanity. I've been toying with it being an illness, a mental illness of sorts, like a social illness. And I think it's due to, and I used to have it. Oh, yeah, I used to run it. I used to lead that stuff until I got access and awareness. And I started meeting brothers in corporate America and found, frankly, the most upright, morally strong family men, financially well off, collaborative men, Black men that I've probably ever met in my whole life, and said, that's my tribe. These men are absolutely incredible. And so I feel like in our community, we have so much of it backwards, where the guys that are doing so well, and I'm just going to say this. I know I've probably stepped into a little bit of left field here. Is that all right if I say one more thing? I
Absolutely.
apologize.
No,
I don't mean
go.
to rub people the wrong way, but you've got a powerful platform here. We don't have enough spaces like these. It's that, in my mind, bold statement. Guys, by the way, I'm okay to do the back and forth. I'm open to a good dialogue. If people want to reach out, jewel@blackexecutivemen.com. I'm open to having the dialogue. In my opinion, these are our heroes in the Black community. These are our living heroes. These are our answers. These are the answers to our prayers. I'm going that far with it. And we need more of what you are doing to highlight their experience for the rest of our community, to see that we don't just have to buy the Nikes. We can work for Nike and make the money. We don't have to just give them our money, guys. We can receive the money. Yeah. It's a totally different side of the coin, and it's available for us as well. I'm going to stop there before I get in trouble somewhere, but this is the show. This is the show.
Hey, we are so in alignment. Trust me. You haven't said anything I haven't already said, and that's what this show is all about. So again, I appreciate your honesty and vulnerability and speaking that truth, because we need to hear it. We need to tell it to ourselves, right? So you're fine. Thank you for sharing that. So I want to talk about something, though, that I haven't heard a lot of people talk about, especially Black men, is when they succeed, some of them deal with guilt about being successful. It's a challenge that they really struggle with. And so maybe they came from a poor background, and maybe they didn't have anybody in their family that made that type of money. Can you talk a little bit about
that? Yes. So definitely see this with my clients. Let's talk about that. So yeah, definitely. So let's say you got a guy, gets his MBA, PhD, doing really well, making, just $200,000-$300,000, right? With or without equity. He's just in that ballpark. Family, if they, nobody's ever cleared six figures, right? I mean, that's just mind-boggling. Used to be for me. Clearing six figures, which is rich. Once you hit six figures, you realize that you are at the very bottom of a whole new money game that goes up to about $1 million, right? And then you're thinking seven figures. I mean, that's got to be how much Jay-Z and whoever else are making, right? even though we're talking billions and millions, it all gets lumped together, right? It's just seven figures. It's just all the money in the world. And then you start getting closer to that or just learning more about that. And you learn once you hit, you're not even in the money game compared to the biggest players in the money game. If you're not on the radar making $1 million compared to people that are making billions, you're not even a blip on the radar. So it just kind of keeps going, right? I guess at the very top. But in terms of that 100,000 or lower, or 60,000 or lower, or 40,000 or 70 or 30 or whatever it is, and you're making 200,000-300,000, yeah, you got money. You can pay medical bills. You can get somebody out of prison. You can pay for the surgery. You can pay for the elder care for all of the family members that need it and are looking at you as, frankly, your responsibility. Why? Because your family helps out, family supports. And if you do it, good. You might or might not get the appreciation for it. But if you don't, there can be some resentment, which often leads to boundaries, which are healthy, needing to be set between this person that has achieved and those that haven't. Now, we're only talking about career thing. There's other values, right? Matters of the heart, relationships, that are phenomenal. We're only just talking about that financial, career, success piece of the puzzle. So I've seen guys have that sense of guilt and at the same time have just had to put up those healthy barriers and boundaries for their own well-being and kind of just let their family members do what they're going to do and kind of let those relationships go where they're going to go. Sometimes, but I've rarely seen it where that financially successful family member has totally turned someone else's life around by making a donation of some sort. The money usually is given, the immediate situation is addressed, but because the individual has not transformed, they end up pretty much back to a similar place in needing that level or expecting that level of support going forward. Now, I will say, this is where organizations, even fraternities or organizations like mine or Michael's organizations like yours, can create that community effect where you're sharing your story openly with other Black men and seeing you're not the only one, and can kind of make peace with the level that you've advanced to, and frankly, who you are in your core, which is going to be, it sounds like, a little bit different than your family member to some degree. And it can provide that level of peace and kind of resolution that you're only going to give what you're going to give, maybe nothing at all, maybe something, and just have peace around that. Because you're around other people that have worked through that and done the same. Last piece I'll say on that is many of the guys I've worked with have been successful for a while now, and it's not particularly a factor that much for them anymore. So most of the guys I've worked with, it's kind of an earlier career phenomena, and then they get weathered, and then it's not that big of a deal anymore for them.
Gotcha. So now I want to pivot because you've got a new book coming up.
Yes.
Born Driven, the executive blueprint for Black men in corporate America. So first of all, how important is it for the brothers to be reading books anyway? See, you know me, I'm a book guy, right? And it amazes me how, you've probably heard the old adage, if you want to keep something from a Black man, put it in a book, right? And the stereotype is that we don't read. I love reading. Talk to us about the importance of reading books.
Yeah, I was going to say essential. It's not essential, right? There's various ways to learn, but and let me put this in a caveat, because there's books, there's white papers, there's McKinsey reports. Okay. There's the, PDFs that you get from the workplace. So you got to read, right? You got to, whether it's an actual book per se, maybe you don't have to read a book per se, but I mean, there's no getting around it. You have to read in order to advance. You can't miss the memo and show up to the meeting, not be prepared, get called on, don't know what you do. That doesn't go on for very long. Not knowing what's happening, getting paid $500,000 as an engineer at Netflix, you don't get a bunch of chances to not know what's going on at these levels. So, yeah. But in terms of books, I mean, if you want to go into hyper growth in terms of learning concepts and frameworks and enhancing your mindset, opening the doors in your mind to new concepts rapidly, books, you're definitely going to be reading books. That's a huge part of what successful people are doing and people in successful circles are doing and talking about. The group I'm in, Black Executive Men, we have a book club. It's more of an informal part of the community, but we have a monthly book that we select. We've even had authors, shout out to Arlen Hamilton, Your First Million, and we read her book a few months back. She heard who we were, what we were doing. She hopped into our community. She did a one-on-one talk, about her book. I think we got James Lowry, I think that's his name, another author, wants to speak to our community as well. So the opportunity to read books to up-level your career and your mind, it's one of the $10, $20 to have life-changing information. No pun intended. It's a no-brainer. And if you're a part of a community, you can actually access those authors, expand your network insanely fast, and bring them to speak to your group as well, especially to us as Black men. We don't know how valuable we are to a lot of people that want to access us and our communities and don't know where to find us. Literally don't know where we're at. So yeah, books, it's absolutely important. Reading them and writing them.
Now, with that being said, one of the chapters in your book is called the CEO mindset. And one of the things we must be willing to do, especially as Black men, is to shift that mindset to think like a CEO, to think like that person at the top, not the person at the bottom. So tell us a little bit about that chapter and the importance of mindset for Black men.
Absolutely. So I just want to put a little context. You're going to love this around this book. So it's about two guys, Mike and Phil. But let me tell you about Mike and Phil. They have a chance reconnection 20 years after graduating from Harvard Business School. They went to Morehouse undergrad together, graduated, went to HBS together, graduated, and then just went their separate ways. So we got 20 years later, chance reconnection, airport lounge, Chicago O'Hare airport lounge. So they're surprised to even meet each other there. But it's a wonderful reconnection. Now, the thing about these two is their dads were very different. So Mike's dad was an entrepreneur, and he put up a lot of very pro-Black business people, men and women, in his business, and he told Mike about them and their story and how they reached success and overcome challenges. They went to the library and read about them all the time. And so Mike's dad, Pops, told him how to view the world as an entrepreneur, as a CEO, if you will, head of the company. Phil, on the other hand, his dad was an employee, worked at the post office, got to the top of that particular office, but decided not to go any further because it just wasn't for Black men to do, and stayed there. But he put food on the table. Phil's dad was a great dad as well. So these were the mindsets that both of them left HBS with. 20 years later, they're sitting there in those cushy chairs. They happen to have some whiskeys. I know not everybody drinks. I don't drink, but they're having some whiskeys. They're catching up, talking about life. And Phil opens up. He says, "You know what, Mike? I hear that you're now a 7-figure earner. Wow, annually. You have a COO role. Incredible. He has board roles. He's just coming back from speaking, keynoting a conference. Received, I don't know, 10K, 15K for keynoting the conference. He has a mentorship program. I mean, this man is firing on all cylinders, mid 40s. Phil, on the other hand, his career topped out at a senior manager. He's pulling in about 200,000, so he's doing a lot better than many other people in his family, but he knows what's going on. He knows in the corporate world, his career is topped out too early, and he's not doing nearly as good as he could be. And so he opens up and shares with Mike openly. How did you do it? I'm over here struggling, doing all right, but struggling, haven't got a promotion in 5 years. I need to know the secrets. And then so from then, it's 10 chapters where Mike breaks down what are the steps that he took that Phil can also take for him to reach the top. And one of those first is the CEO mindset, where he talks about how for him, his career, it's a very creative oriented process where he's constantly looking to build himself up and to build his career out and create opportunity. That's the key difference. While Phil is more of a receptor mindset, what we call the employee mindset, he just turns his career. This is dangerous, guys. And you're going to know if this is you, and you're going to say, ouch, this is me. He turned his career over to his company and said, all the training I need, my company will provide. All the insights I need, the company will provide. And he's seen his career top out and become frustrated and said, well, it's got to be racism. They got to not like me personally. It's got to be something else. As opposed to having a CEO mindset, which Mike has, engaged in professional development, constantly networking, studying C-level leaders, and beginning to exchange his vocabulary for their vocabulary. Being a student, creating opportunity in his own career. And that's led him to a C-level role, 7-figure salary. He's on a speaking tour, mentorship program, impact galore. And so that really is that chapter around the CEO mindset versus the more receiver employee mindset. And it can unlock the juggernaut inside of a worker if they decide to make that shift.
Outstanding. I can't wait to get my copy so I can
do
it. Now, there's a lot of talk these days about finding your purpose. And it is my belief that every human being does have a divine purpose, and it's our responsibility to figure out what that purpose is. What is your take on purpose? And is that something you help coach people to find?
Yeah, I think it's extremely important. Extremely important. And for me, purpose is really the center of that combines a few pieces. So one is really your passion. What are you really passionate about doing that you would just do it for free? It's cliche, but sometimes you do have to start doing it for free in order to find a way to weave it into your business, to make a use case for it, starting your own business, you name it. The second thing is going to be, I believe, around skill set, something that you're actually good at doing. Now, you can refine that. And I think the last piece is impact, something that truly makes an impact on the world in a positive way, be it for your family, your friend circle, your kind of a special interest kind of community, colleagues, you name it. But it has that impact piece of the equation as well. So I definitely coach my clients to lock in to whatever that is for them, but then also to wrap it in a business context of how they can, I'll even give you an example. There's a guy, but different, who I've been kind of talking about, actually worked at film company. We'll leave it at that. And wanted to actually work in the international market, but was, based here in the United States. So we talked about what that could look like for him in terms of traveling to different countries and working under his company, but at these foreign outposts to make movies, make an impact, but begin networking very aggressively and building a name for himself, even writing about it, for the world to begin to see him as an expert in international film distribution, the business process. So he's not only doing what he loves, but impacting the world in a way that he's passionate about as well. And in this case, can make great money doing at the same time. So I believe passion is incredibly important and something I definitely help my clients lock in on. At times, they have fears and concerns about truly going for it. Uh, Coaching and transformation isn't always a overnight process,
Yeah.
but yeah, incredibly important.
Yeah, really important. So as we wind down, I want to now give you an opportunity for anyone, or how can people reach you if they've been inspired by this conversation and said, you know what, I'm ready. I'm ready. I need some coaching. How do they find you?
Yeah, guys, just find me on LinkedIn. Too easy to find. Too easy. My name is Jewel Love. I'm the only one you're gonna find. Only man you're gonna find. There's a woman named Jewel Love I've seen on LinkedIn, but I think it's just her and me, and I'm me, not her. So just come and find me, and then just reach out and say, "Hey, Jewel, I'm very chatty and personable, and would be happy to speak with you." Whether we end up working together or not is secondary. I have a bunch of people on my network I can refer you to if I'm not the one. It doesn't have to be me, but might be, and we go off and do some really good work together. So yeah, Jewel Love, just find me on LinkedIn.
Perfecto. Now I want to give an opportunity for your final closing thoughts, whatever is on your heart to share.
I would say what you're doing here is absolutely phenomenal. It's groundbreaking. It's earth shattering. It's the solution that we need in the Black community and beyond, because we're interconnected with people around the world through our relationship, through economics, you name it. Um, it's just so needed. It almost brings tears to my eyes, the back of them anyway. I don't know which side of them, but just how important what you're doing and how committed you are to doing this. Um, and I think there might be a bit of sadness that it's not our mainstream way of thinking and moving. And there is sadness around that because I know so many people are moving through the world with so much hurt and so much potential unrealized individually, and what they could bring into the fold for all of us as a community. We're stronger together. Um, but I think there's a bit of, and I'm searching for it, but it's there, is that celebration as well, on this oasis, frankly, that you've created and that I've created, and that guys like us are creating. So it's just deep gratitude. Like I said at the very beginning, I didn't fully understand the gravity of what you're doing here like I do now. And whew, man, you're a heavy hitter, and I'm just thankful to know you and to be in your network and to hop on your show. So thank you very much.
Well, again, I don't believe in accidents. Everything happens for a reason. And I think we were brought together with a divine purpose. And that divine purpose is to empower Black men around the globe. And it is my absolute honor, man, to be connected with you, because we're playing the same game, you know? And I am just so glad to have you on the team and to be on the team with you as we empower Black men to shatter the stereotypes and build extraordinary lives. So again, thank you for how you show up in the world, and keep doing what you're doing. And like I said, we're connected. And so I don't know where it's going to lead, but eventually there'll be more collaborations because we are connected. So again, it is just my absolute honor and pleasure to be on the transformational team with you. So thank you.
Thank you.
So this has been another episode of Shatter the Stereotypes. And I'm just overjoyed with pride right now, because when I see men like yourself, Jewel, and I know what we're capable of. I know there's just a lot of us who may not have access to this information that can support and empower them. So that's why I'm so committed to what I'm doing with this particular movement. Just letting men see men like you and let them know that it's possible for them also. So again, thank you. So again, another episode of Shadow Stereotypes. We'll see you next episode. Take care.